Welcome to I'm From the Internet, a podcast about somethingawful.com, the goons and their consequences. I am Chicago illustrator Winslow Dumaine, and I'm sitting here with internet historian Jay Brandstetter. Jay, how you been, man?
I've been doing pretty good. I've been enjoying getting out more. Yesterday, we went on a walk. There's an old Jewish cemetery near here that we've been wanting to just go on a walk at ever since I moved here, and it was just neat to go there and see the graves. Like some of them go all the way back to the 1800s, and it was just, it's one of those nice, like tranquil places. And also for Fred, it was very personally meaningful to see, like that his community has been here, so long, and it was just a very nice experience. I'd totally recommend graveyards in general.
Oh, yeah, I'm always going to cemeteries after Oddities shows. No surprise about that. But, yeah, it's like funerary art is kind of like a thing that I know is surprising a lot about because of, spending time in the Oddities world. So I do have to say that it's fun to be in the pod chamber right now because I set up, I'm trying to get more lighting in my apartment so it's less of a dungeon. And so I got those tall standing LEDs nice. It's like a long strip of them, and I got a couple of those, and they're fine, but I just plugged it in, and so you know how like bisexual lighting where you have the red extremes, and blue kind of thing. Well, what I have right now, because I have like one side is dark in the pod chamber and the other side is just this ominous red. I'm thinking that I'm going to call it diabolical lighting.
I love it.
It's very close. So looking very evil.
Yeah, you're about to tell Inspector Gadget you're going to catch him next time.
Yeah, Dr. Robotnik, somebody. Yeah, I'm very much in my Shadow the Hedgehog. Was it Shadow the Echidna?
Shadow the Hedgehog, yeah.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
I'm the Hedgehog lore guy, if you need it.
Okay, so then there's an Echidna somewhere in there, right?
Yeah, Knuckles is the Echidna.
Oh, Knuckles is the Echidna. So Shadow's just like dark.
He's a genetically engineered hedgehog, and yeah, he's like dark and twisted with a tragic backstory. He's the ultimate life form.
Okay, and the Echidna is worse?
The Echidna has magic powers. He's like he lives on a magic island. He's one of those things where he starts out as an enemy, but then he becomes a friend because they team up to fight the real enemy.
Dude, there's some shit in this world where like I know a lot about like Silent Hill and Stalker lore. Definitely more Silent Hill. Stalker actually storyline didn't. The nuances of the storyline didn't hit me as much as they did in Silent Hill. But it's always really funny to find people who are like heavily emotionally invested in some sort of series where there is a magic island where a goth echidna lives, and it's like, no, you need to take this fucking seriously. They're completely ruining this character. It's so funny to me, dude. Like, oh yeah, like there's the shallowest middle ground is people who have very fucking strong feelings about Captain America or whatever. And like, his character wouldn't do that. Cause it's like, at least they're talking about a human. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain point when your story is so fantastical that it's just like, okay, dog, I don't care how thoroughly you've fleshed out these characters. I'm not giving them the humanity that you expect, right? Like we are talking about a fucking echidna with spikes on his knuckles. Knuckles has the spikes.
Also, he's an echidna, basically a name only. He just looks like every other creature, except exactly. Looks like he has dreadlocks. Like Sonic, and they have rap music playing.
Sonic doesn't look like a fucking hedgehog. Like none of those like Eggman looks like an egg. He's egg shaped. The hedgehog, he just looks like like a Super Saiyan with hair relaxants, So he's got the big spiky hair, but it softens down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very funny to watch them get there from just like, what if there was a fun animal who like fought robots to rescue his friends? Like, it's just very funny watching this whole thing sprawl out over the decades into this current like Sonic and his shitty friends nightmare.
Yeah, it's funny to me because like there's people who are so passionate about this lore, and it hits me the same way that like Talk to Us podcast is like one of the highest listened to podcasts in the fucking country. Like it's massive, and people are living these lives that we just have no fucking idea about. I hate to sound like the every dickhead from, Twitter, but like it really does feel like there are like droves of billions of coworkers who are like, did you see the game last night? That ref is such a clown. Did you see the game last night? That ref, it's like, I can't imagine having a fucking conversation with someone who's like, oh no, I lost all of my money on Dogecoin, and then I gained it back because I tried to pump and dump Hawk Tua coin. And you're like, when's the last time you talked to your mother? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh gosh, yeah. Like with the Hawk Tua thing, I just like to think that that's just like most people don't listen to podcasts, so I just like to think that's people who don't normally listen to podcasts being like, oh, I know this funny lady from the internet, I'll go check out her thing. Whereas like as opposed to but yeah, it is just one of those things where it's like, yeah, wow, although it is very funny that she also just, like you said, just kind of torpedoed that doing a token scam apparently.
I am very interested in seeing the Fire Festival documentary about her rise and fall, because like she was nobody, then she was the it girl, and then she became the biggest podcaster in the world, and then immediately set it all on fire and might go to prison. Like, I'm very curious to see what happens when you give. There's some movie. There's No Country for Old Men, but there's this other movie about. You give some like Western men, some like guys from New Mexico, you give them $250,000 and you watch how it fucks up their life.
A Simple Plan?
I can't remember what it is. What's up?
Is that A Simple Plan? Sam Raimi movie? Where it's like they find like a thing of money and like a crashed car and they all start killing each other over it.
That might be one of them, but there's some other one where they have to launder it at a casino.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I don't know. Well, I'll if I think of it, I'll have Steve pop it in here. But yeah, it's just really funny to see, like, kind of in the same way that, like, it's fun to see a moderator on, like, the Danganronpa subreddit or whatever lose his fucking mind with, like, a power trip. It's just the same kind of fun to see what happens if, like, what's the smallest amount of success that can just shatter someone's psyche.
Definitely.
I'm waiting for mine. I'm waiting to find out what it is for me. So far, I think I've done pretty well.
Oh, yeah, no, you're doing great. Also, I would say that knowing about that behavior really explains a lot of like bad teachers you have growing up, where it's like, oh yeah, just having a little bit of power over like a group of people like that really gets to some people.
Yeah, it is really funny because I definitely have had some teachers where it's just like, oh, you just like if you could run a little bit faster, you would be the worst cop in the world. Like, all you want to do, like, I know that we talked about this last time about people who are obsessed with how they are mistreated in grade school. For me, I do think, like, there are some teachers who are just like, why did you get into this? You just want to hurt people. Like, usually there's somebody where you can see, like, the reticence towards evil, and that is the joy in their heart. You know what I mean? And then there's some teachers that you meet where you're just like, oh, you're wretched all the way through. Like, how did you end up in this position?
Like when I talk about like behind the scenes stuff, one of the things that a lot of people I've talked to find very validating is when I talk about teachers openly being like, oh, this student doesn't need these extra allotments I have to give them. They're just doing it for attention or whatever. And then me telling them being like, yeah, that's why I wouldn't take advantage of that in school because I knew the teachers were judging me for it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy, but yeah, that's what they were doing. And now just so many people are not. That's why the pop culture image of teachers is all like loony lefties, and the conservative spheres is so funny to me because it's like, no, some of the most like bitter conservatives I've ever known were public school teachers.
Oh yeah, I had like in, I think he was a English teacher or something. No, he wasn't an English teacher. He was some like sociology guy, and it was like we were in the middle of like the brutality of the Iraq War. Fucking white phosphorus war crimes every other day, and some student like just indicated opposition towards the war and just like talked about how it's like these Republicans are always trying to push us towards war. And he derailed the entire class to scream at us about how John F. Kennedy got us into Vietnam, which is like, fuck are you talking about? Just a grown man having a meltdown at a child. And like, we didn't get any work done that day because he was just fuming mad about the opinion of a child. And then eventually he got kicked out of that school because he hit some kids. So
Yeah, that's definitely a character class among teachers. Like I've known so many of that guy.
Yeah, we've all had a teacher
it's
that was
always
just
like psychology
despicable.
or sociology too, but usually it's their side thing. Like usually
it's all of them.
Or something. Yeah,
it's all of them truly. And like there's no greater like I'm sure there are some great gym teachers in the world, but like it's like gym teachers like construction worker where it's like, man, if you are like some sort of weird dog rapist or something like that, you can work construction or you can teach kids kickball. For some reason society is like, hey, do you like harming children? Well, here's a ball that goes doink when you hit them in the fucking forehead.
Can you count to 4? All right, you can do 4 square. Hop on in, buddy.
Yeah. God, good for them. I guess somebody's got to teach kids how to run. Yeah.
Brutal.
Well, I before we get too deep into it, all of the cards are drawn, and I'm finally putting the next deck together. There are 8 decks in the game. All of the rest cards are done. All of the realm cards are done, and I'm starting with the encounters, and I'm piecing them together bit by bit. And it is killing my brain, but we're getting it done. Pre-order the game.
It is really cool seeing them assembled in all the different graphical layers. Like it's neat how it's very textured without looking busy. Like it looks like I can tell you put a lot of work into it.
There's like an encounter card that you look at for just a little bit. There's probably 50 different layers to it. There's like a top, like the outermost border is split into 3 pieces so that there can be an interior border, a sub border, and it's split from the bottom so that you can have a weapon that breaks through the border of the card so it looks like pseudo 3D. So there's all of that, every variety of attack and weapon and all the different rewards that they can have. There's just so much to it. It's a stupendous amount of work. It's fun though. And I will be posting all of that on my stories off and on as they get developed. So
cool.
You got a story for me today?
Oh yeah, here, let me pull this up. Well, I guess sort of segue into that, we have another sort of game development story we're going to talk about here. This is a less successful one than some of our past ones. We're going to be talking about a game called Gigamaidens.
Yes! Oh, man. This rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Dear listener, sorry if there's a lot of noise. I am still in the Lotex Kianka Memorial Podcasting Chamber. 1971 to... When did he die?
2021.
2021. God, what a life. Yeah, so I'm in a noisy little chamber here. Jay pulls up the document, and oh boy, I'll start from the bottom because what we're looking at is a screenshot of a fighting video game. So, it's just 2 characters fighting. The area in which they're fighting is an infinite gray wasteland that's dotted with gray blocks. And so it gives the impression of an enormous city. The character on the left is a pretty ripped anime girl with big tits and big red hair and anime boots and tights and like a cute heart skirt. And then like, how clothing will have like the boob window up top? So she has that, but she also has an ab window, which God bless her. What a treat. Ladies, give me an ab window. Even if you don't got abs, I like a tummy.
Probably really comfortable. It seems like it would breathe really well when you're doing giga fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes it easier if you go to get a sonogram. You don't have to take your shirt off. You just have the ab window, and they can just put those pads on you. No, like the ab window on a top is fantastic because it enhances your ability to pat your tummy after a big sandwich. Especially if you, like Jerry the mouse, eat a cheese and then take the shape of the cheese. I don't know why that popped into my head. So it's a very tough, beautiful anime lady. I say beautiful, but it's just what she's stylized to look like. She's holding like a cartoonishly enormous sword that is gold and silver and red and like this very phallic shaped. she's punching, for some reason, towards another character who's wearing functionally the identical outfit, but with... I think that might just be the same character. It is the same character. They both have the enormous swords.
It's the only character model he had at the time, yeah.
Yes. So it's like, yeah, she's fighting her exact clone. So it's, imagine Patty and Selma duking it out, but they're Asian ladies with big swords. I also really like that her hair is just one long shoehorn. That's the only shape I can give it.
Yeah, it's like a piece of uncooked pasta coming out of her hair. Like you're gonna make lasagna.
Yeah, it's just like this. Yeah, it's it looks like it was. You're right. It looks like it was extruded. To quote internet historian. So what we're looking at is just two gigantic ladies fighting in a city, and the logo for the game is a big, glossy, shiny logo that you imagine you would see this on like a slot machine. So it's like super thick, round, sexy letters, and it says Gigamaidens in gold with a big old heart over it.
And there's like little flashing lights around it and a big heart in the middle. This is so tacky, and this is such an aesthetic choice. It's
like Skullgirls, was that the name of that fighting game?
Yeah, this does have various kind of Skullgirls vibes. Like, what if Skullgirls was in Atlantic City instead of New York? Like,
okay, yeah, no, Skullgirls. Outside of the fact that there's a creepy shit in that regarding like one of the 16-year-old characters, you could see her panties while she's fighting, which is like, Jesus Christ. I don't care where you're from. That's pretty fucking vile, but. They did have like a really decided aesthetic that was, the rest of the aesthetic was very interesting. It's a bummer about the weird, creepy panty shot shit in that. But anyways, I do love a game that is just like, yeah, it's a fetish. What the fuck are you going to do about it?
Yeah, like that is not the part of this game that is going to be on trial, as we will see. Yeah, but yeah, this is another Goon Game Dev story, and this was created by a poster named Cabbage Pots, registered April 7th, 2008. I have I pulled up their avatar here on the site. Their subtext says winner of the Poor Games poster avatar, and their avatar is a screenshot of this FMV game where it's Rob Schneider making a face, and it says starring funny man Rob Schneider as the voice of the hero. So this is their way of saying like, we don't think you're funny, go away.
Oof. I had somebody get mad at me on Instagram last night because I have a new bumper sticker that says it's like a Western style with a barbed wire across it, and it just says horse, truck, beer, gun, yard, gun, truck, jeans, god, beer, flag, gun, yup, gun, truck. And a guy got really mad in the comments for it because he was just being a dickhead, and then he DM'd me dog balls and said, good luck recovering from that, and then never talked to me again. Which all right, man, touche. Touche.
That is an opening salvo. Yeah, I don't get what it is about cars that inspires that. Like, the only time I've had that happen to me recently was once where I was like, post pictures of Fred next to giant trucks that couldn't possibly see him over the front of them, and people being like, that's in the parking lot of a Home Depot. They obviously have a reason to use that or whatever. I'm like, they were buying doorknobs.
Yeah. I put up a TikTok the other day talking about how whenever you make fun of a big truck, there's always somebody in the comments who's like, well, but if I get in an accident, I need a big truck so that my car will win. I want to win the truck fight. And it's like, that's such an insane thing to say.
I'm not a coward. I don't have that problem.
Yeah, it's like, one, I lift weights so that I can fight the truck myself. And, it's just very funny to see these dudes who are like, I am putting every single person in my entire life at risk of getting hit by my truck just so that if another car hits me, it will deal slightly less damage.
Yeah, it makes me glad that ours isn't too bad, even though we have the wheelchair stuff in it, but... Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, so I have them here.
Wait, what do you drive?
It's a 2013 Dodge Grand Caravan. There are only there are a couple different commercial vehicle lines that get modified to become wheelchair vans. So like they have like a piece just for the 2013 Dodge Grand Caravans, a piece for the other one. So usually when you get service, that's what they go off of. There's not like a specific van that they make for consumers that has the wheelchair stuff in it.
Yeah, I just asked because I'm next year I'm going to buy a Transit Connect, but that's going to be a whole thing.
Yeah, no, watching you scale up your operation has been super interesting. On top of everything else, it's a lot of work, but yeah, look at you go.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to have a car that like gets more than 17 miles a gallon.
I've had to get used to driving a van after driving my little Kias around for a decade. It's like, oh yeah, this uses a lot more gas than I'm used to.
It does.
Yeah, and so just their last post was on May 4th, 2017. We're going to see why, but I guess to sort of lighten the mood there, his sort of catchphrase was, quote, "suck my cabbage dick." So like whenever people would be like, "Go away, cabbage pots," he'd be like, "suck my cabbage dick." That was like his catchphrase. So we're dealing with someone who has a catchphrase.
Yeah, I do love, well, I can't say much because, well, okay, I wouldn't call Gatorade should be thicker a catchphrase because I don't say it in as a response to things. It's just a tagline that I put into a lot of stuff, right? So
that's funny to think of. Like if this was like the 90s when like every stand-up comedian got a sitcom, just the Winslow show, where that's the thing is every episode you say Gatorade should be thicker, and they invent like a situation where you get to say that.
Yeah, some fucking how. Aquam spicere alligatoris. To thicken the water of the alligator. If you've ever seen that in my Instagram, I always end a post by saying aquam spicere alligatoris. And it literally translates to, yes, to thicken the water of the alligator.
It's like a Michael Crichton novel. Like they find that in a catacomb. They're like, "You're the only person who knew about this."
Of course.
Yeah. And I guess to continue for, so he's also in the fighting game community. He's known as Psycho Josh, and he posted about it on Something Awful. So you can go on like fighting game stuff and find him at competition, Psycho Josh. Here, I pulled up one of him at like 2010.
I was going to ask which one is which, but then you scrolled down and it revealed it even more for me.
Yeah, this is like his sort of like publicity photo, man. So we can kind of go over this one. It's intentionally funny according to, but yeah, there's just so much to go over it.
I mean, he has like the Fu Manchu. He has he's making like a stupid pose at a.
He's like charging a spirit bomb, like he's going to Kamehameha.
Yeah, his hands are out. It's very close to the. Black metal invisible oranges post. Do you know what I mean? Where invisible black metal guys are like, imagine you're holding two oranges and then your hands are just clutched like that. So if you can imagine him like holding an enormous beach ball and then remove the beach ball, he has a headband that says Psycho Josh, and he has those glasses that have like tiny circular frames that make him look like a Nazi doctor. And all of that's dumb and weird, and I don't care for anime culture. However, his shirt has an enormous, sexy anime girl in a bikini, and it says, "I like my women visible from orbit." That is so fucking funny to me.
It's so good, yeah. And you can see she's lying on like the silhouette of the curve of the earth, and she's like writing something on the moon with her finger. And also she's so big, her arm is like overlapping the border. Like she's like coming out of it. Like, yeah, this is a very funny design.
It's so good. There's something small to be said about someone who likes so severely the thing that they like. You know what I mean? Like, if big women are your thing and you're not like, you know, because there's so many people who are like totally terrified of admitting what they're into. And this is a guy who's like, nope, I like huge women. Amazonian women are like not nearly enough for me. I want to be destroyed by a woman. And he's just like embodying it. All right, dog.
Yeah, that is a very cool, fun part of it. And also just like from the fighting game community, a part of that is like having an identity and standing out. And yeah, like that is probably like why he's known in some circles is just for that. Cause yeah, it is a notable, memorable thing about him. And yeah, like I said, you know, he's a macrophile. I think that's the technical term for people who have like macro for large. And then, yeah, so
of course.
Yeah. And then specifically giantesses, like we'll find out he's very stridently a non-homosexual giant fan.
No, I'm a homosexual giant fan. Oh man, I just love that you had to put in like the caveat there. So funny to me. I shudder to ask, are there microphiles?
Yeah, there is definitely microphilia sort of the counter that. And there's also like stuff where there's like shrinking, where it's like specifically like getting smaller. Or, yeah, I have like some notes about that later about this. We can sort of camp out on that when we get to, yeah, it is a very interesting, like from a creative standpoint, fetish to me, just like the idea of like, you know, how much.
Like, dog, I'm not into children. I am not, children disgust me. However, a fully grown woman who happens to have not grown much. Imagine Alanis Morissette, but she's 1 foot tall. And that's your fetish? Like, and maybe you are also 1 foot tall? I don't, like, how... So the fetish then is that you want to be small in a big world.
It's kind of like like a spectrum and an umbrella. Like there's all these different little delineations of it. Where some people, it's like, yeah, you want to be a tiny person, you want to be like a borrower living in a normal world. There's somewhere it's like, oh, I want to be a normal sized person, but I want to get stepped on by like a giant person. You have some people where it's like, I want to be a giant, but like big enough to interact with the city. I don't want to be like big enough where I'm just floating in space. Other people are like, no, you want to be floating in space. That's what's attractive. Like it's very, all these things, the narcissism of small differences really stands out in fetish communities like this in a funny way.
Oh, man. No, you want to be floating in space. That's what makes it hot, man. How else are you going to fuck the river if you're not in orbit? That's so fucking funny, dude. I do like the idea that, like, I mean, we've talked about this in the past of like activation points for people where, like, for furries, you know, they see anthropomorphized characters have been a thing for a million years, but furries will see an anthro character, and they're just like, oh fuck, I really like that. I want to have my own version of that where I am a cat, and then ... suddenly you're a furry. But I do like the idea of like a totally normal default settings kid goes over to his friend's house. He's like, oh, we're gonna watch this really funny movie. It's called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And they put it on, and all the other kids are having fun and eating popcorn and like yelling over each other. And then there's one kid who's just kind of silently in the back. He's like the lights of the screen kind of glittering in his eyes, and he's just like making these massive realizations about himself.
You know, I never did think about what it would be like to be eaten before. I have some thoughts on that now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I think about, like, I got a real tiny friend, and I just think, like, oh man, your groceries go for fucking forever because you're nothing. You're teeny. You know, it's so nice.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that because I know, like, with macrophiles, there's, like, one cartoon that a lot of them cite is, like, the first time as a kid they kind of realize that, where it's, like, it was, like, an old Looney Tunes where it's, like, a cat is trying to catch a bird, and the bird finds a potion that makes it bigger, so it drinks to get bigger than the cat, and the cat drinks the potion to get bigger, and, like, the whole cartoon is just them getting bigger than each other, and a lot of them being like, oh, yeah, that was kind of the moment I realized this does something for me. So there are, like, these moments of inflection, like, where one specific cartoon might be, like, the time when people kind of realize that or it activated them. I'm sure there's going to be some, once in, like, a couple of decades, there's probably some really interesting research in on this, like on the academic world.
It's just so interesting. We could probably go on at detail about this, but let's keep going.
Spots, like I mentioned, they don't post anymore because on May 4th, 2017, they got a $100,000 probation, like me. The text here says, the only thing worse about this guy making the exact same joke about jacking off to giant women for 8+ years is every person who still falls for it and feels the urge to respond to him. Please leave this website. User loses posting privileges for 100,000 hours. So he's still away when I was writing this.
Well, that was in 2017. How long is 100,000 hours?
It's a little over 12 years, so around...
okay, so
yeah, about halfway through.
We got some time.
Yeah. And so, like, normally I would be all for his whole steez, but, like, he's one of those the only moral fetish is my fetish types, so he has, like, some real rancid opinions when you start straying from giant anime women. Like, one of his promotional posts here about Gigamaidens, there was, like, a question and answer section. He goes, sorry, but there will be no transsexuals in Gigamaidens because I do not wish to further enable the mainstream delusion that is transgenderism. So
I'm not laughing at him saying that calling transgenderism mainstream delusion. I'm not laughing at that. What I'm laughing at is how universal it is that, like, you know, like that. I just saw some post of, like, some anime weeb posting some stupid racist shit where they had, like, some anime character saying the N-word and they were just all fucking clapping their forearms together. And then you click the profile and the very first thing that they post is, lolly child porn drawings and shit like that. And it's like the moral compass of these people where they're like, no, it's totally normal to want to be crushed to death by a space bimbo, but a man in a dress? That's too far, you know? Like, it's so fucking wild to me. Like, I've met people who are like, that have unambiguous, loud and proud, shit in my mouth fetish, and then they're like, yeah, but I'm not fucking queer. Like, it's just baffling to me.
It is really, yeah. It is just, especially as somebody who is essentially a part of like these type of communities. Like, yeah, that is such an odd element, especially like, you know, when you see people like, I kind of get like a young person who's still figuring them out, who's kind of like a young angry guy doing that. But like when you see people like our age that are still like that, it's like, come on, man. Like I was able to work my way through this. You know,
the young angry guy thing is absolutely something that needs to be like, you need to keep that in your mind. Every time I see people talk about like feminist discourse or social justice discourse needs to be a little more forgiving of young men, the responses are always like, young men? You mean the thing that Hitler was? You know, like just completely over the top screaming at people about like, oh, like you need to be slightly kinder to young men about your politics in order to like recruit them to your side. And the response is always like people like pulling their hair out, blaming every single man on earth for every single bad thing that they've ever had happen to them from any other man. And the reality is that there's a trillion forces in the world. Two of the largest ones, or the for sure the largest one is the patriarchy recruiting young men to be violent assholes. And that is a $1 trillion force. It is 10,000 years old, and it is fully enmeshed into every single corner of our society in every capacity, right? And on the side of like the violent heteropatriarchy, we have people that are, it's immediate rewards. You get to feel powerful. You get to feel like you have status. You get to feel like you have enemies. And on the other side, you know, you don't get that immediate ego boost. And you have children, young men who've been raised in that. And if you call them all rapist Nazi incels, yeah, guess what? All of those guys are going to go, well, I'm going to hang out with the people who don't call me rapist Nazi incels. They're like 11. They haven't read all of your discourse on it. They're 11. Yeah. You need to like do something to reach out to these people.
Yeah, especially people like us where we were like, it's like people I know who themselves would be like, oh yeah, when I was young, I was super problematic. I had all these bad opinions. Yeah. But then they'll be like, oh my God, I saw that there's like young people have bad opinions now. This generation is lost. It's like, dude.
Oh yeah. If I found somebody posting things that I said, I would be like, what a fucking asshole. And then I found out it was me. I'd be like, no, you know, like, yeah. I don't remember, again, we've talked about it a billion times. I don't know, I can't remember who said it, but we live in a society that demands constant apologies and offers no forgiveness. And it's like, why would I ever apologize for anything I've ever done if the people demanding the apology are not going to stop screaming at me? It doesn't help anybody. Like you're just going to create angrier and angrier people. Like you need to be more open to all different types of people, you know. But I only say that because I'm obviously part of the problem. So, anyways, yeah. Well, yeah, so transphobic Gigamaidens, Psycho Josh.
Yeah, and it is pretty funny because he's one of those people that hates furries, but all the goons call him a furry because he likes cat girls. So, like, yeah. Like, I have a poster from Autism Money, like, we don't do lols here, furry YCS pedophile cabbage pots. And they call him that because this is his OC, Kasha. She's like this. Ugh. Yeah, he can... That's how he, like, that's like his sort of self-insert character he uses for, like, his girl, anime girl.
His self-insert is a gal. His self-insert is a like toddler girl in a unitard with a gold necklace and has big huge hair, a cat tail, and cat ears, and paws and paw feet. But transgenderism's too far.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally I don't get a whole lot of drawing children in leotards, but who am I to judge?
Yeah,
all of this sucks.
It does,
but yeah, it just makes me think of that thing of like the spectrum of furry, where it's like girl with cat ears, fine. Girl with like some fur, that's pretty furry, and then you get dangerously furry, and then it's Chester Cheetah, and it says dangerously cheesy. But yeah, so we drew his self-insert character as like a cute little chibi girl eating. So there's a giant Amazon like panther woman.
Yeah, this one here isn't his art. His art is like the MS Paint one. This is like another artist we're going to talk about in a little bit. So yeah. So
it's like this enormous tiger-striped Amazon cat woman who just took the silver lid off of a serving tray to reveal a turkey that is being currently nommed by the Josh Psycho OC character. It sucks. All of it sucks. The art's fine. Like, I'm not questioning the art. I don't care for anime art, but it's competent for what it is.
Winslow, that's maybe the best derisive nom I've ever heard.
Yeah, because it's the only thing. Like, I'm not going to say taking a bite out of, but it's definitely, that's the word that you would use.
Yeah, like, I'm amazed it's not the 3 face when she's biting into that.
Yes, like, exactly. Yeah, it makes me think, did you see the German tweet of the train that hit a hay bale? Did you see that one? Yeah. That was just like, it was like, if you translate it, it's like, ooh, who left me this delicious hay bale? Mampf, 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 which is the German word for saying munch, 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 which is very endearing to me. Germans can do no wrong, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah, historically speaking.
Yeah.
But the one you have below here is this is not Josh.
This one here, this is one of Josh's drawings here. This one, the flat.
Oh.
Yeah, so the concept of a giantess fighting game is something that he'd been kicking around ever since he was a teenager. Like, he's written a bunch of blog posts about the development of it, and like, this is like an idea he's been carrying out with him. Like, this is like his life's sort of passion project. So this is a drawing from 2006 that he did of sort of exploring this concept.
It doesn't seem like that bad of an idea. I mean, like, yes, obviously there's like, you could bitch about fetish stuff all the time, but like,
yeah, because this is a genre of fighting games. Like, there's like a Godzilla fighting game, like kaiju fighting
exactly
games.
That.
Kind of a thing. Yeah.
But just putting chicks in it is like, who cares? You know, put chicks in it, and that's my current statement on the wokeness in video games Grum's saga is just put chicks in it. But what we're looking at here, I have to say that because fighting games are so, I want to say, not simple, but because it's just characters fighting, and very rarely do you have vehicles and huge open worlds and like weather effects and all this extra stuff, you have the ability to create really crazy character designs. Like Skullgirls, I believe there's a character called Big Band, and he's a guy in an enormous trench coat, and he's got big gloves, and he's like shaped like a fridge. He's a big guy, and then all of his attacks involve the fact that inside of his trench coat, his body is just a collection of musical instruments. And so, like, he has like a trombone punch, and like he'll have a big old tuba that comes out of him, and he opens his trench coat, and it's just like, and it's like all of these horns and like instruments coming out. What an idea! That's so interesting. That's such a fascinating idea. Rather than just like, oh, here's a guy in a gi, here's a guy in a tank top, whatever. And like in the Matrix, Enter the Matrix for PS2. Did you ever play that?
Oh yeah,
dude. It's such a panned game, but it was so fun to just turn on the infinite focus cheat code and just like fight cops and just like punch them infinitely with perfect kung fu. It just was so... There's so many obviously glaring problems with the game. Long story short, of the wild, crazy, never been done before kind of cheat codes that they added to that game, where you could like directly access the firmware of your PlayStation 2 and like you could enter a cheat code into the Matrix's mainframe console thing that would like tell your console to restart or eject the disk tray or like format the hard drive or whatever. It was crazy. But long story short, you could unlock a fighting game in the game that was totally separate from the main campaign and hidden in the console. And you could fight as all of the different characters, and you could fight as cars. you could just be like a car person with tire arms and just like punch other car people. Fascinating, you know. I love it.
Fighting games have always been like that. So, like early in Virtua Fighter, you can unlock like one of the cars from Daytona, USA, or something as one of the fighters. Like they always have been doing funny little creative things like that. Because you're just focused on these characters, and it's a really interesting creative playground to exist in. Yeah,
it's awesome. And long story short, what we're looking at here is an anime girl throwing a punch at another anime girl. They are obviously giantesses with big, beautiful thighs. And they are in an enormous, vast, and like, you know, it's still done in MS Paint, but it's still a very thoughtfully done city, I would say, with like the dark blast city extending beyond it. There's some lit up buildings in the foreground, and then there's the you can imagine the parallax effect that they would do, where the background, the furthest back moves very little, the closer moves a little bit, and then the immediate buildings move more. That's how you can create a pseudo 3D effect in a game environment. I'm just saying this in case my mom listens to this episode and she knows what I'm talking about. But so like it's a kind of a well done city for MS Paint, except the character on the left is wearing a bodysuit that says Pepsi, and it's got a big Pepsi logo on it. She's got a little Pepsi tarbouche, I would say, is her hat. Okay, it's a bottle cap. Oh, that's great. Okay, so yeah, she's wearing a little bottle cap. She's Pepsi girl, and she's throwing a punch at a Coca-Cola girl who's got her Coca-Cola bottom on, which it's red and it's got the little twist over of the white, the Coca-Cola logo. Her top says Coca-Cola, and she's wearing almost like a yarmulke, Coke cap as a hat. And what I love about it is that her midriff and the top of her neck are dark brown with like soda bubbles in it. And I could just imagine like this character where like her mid portion, like her midriff is just full of soda.
Yeah, she's Kool-Aid Man, but only torso. Everything else is still flesh. It's very surreal.
It's very funny, and it just makes me think that like if this were like you could imagine like this done like mocked up beautifully in 3D, where like she moves around, you can see the bubbles frothing around, and then what I imagine is that you would see this advertised as like a bathing suit on Temu. And he'd be like, oh my God, this bathing suit makes me look like a bottle of Coke, and it's like see-through. And then when you order it, it's just like bubbles on shitty cotton, you know? Like, I'm sure you've seen the thing where like they'll have a shirt that you can buy on Temu, and like it's super cropped and fit, and like it'll like tighten around your abs to like give you, you know, like a bodysuit type of thing. And then you order it, and it's just the image from the from the store just like stuck onto the body. Yeah, it just looks terrible. So anyways, great image. So far, not a fan of the transphobia. Do like some of his aesthetic choices, which is...
Yeah, I guess like as a fetish, like as an artist, that seems to be pretty like difficult because so much of it is based around like detailed cityscapes and perspective and stuff. Like all this like really complicated technical stuff that you have to like do to sort of like pull off that these people are giant. It doesn't seem very easy.
Yeah, this whole thing just kind of rocks right now. Tell me more about how it falls apart.
Quote here from him about the development in 2011. Following the release of Street Fighter IV in 2009, I had gotten acquainted with my local fighting game community, and we would gather at a local hot dog restaurant every Wednesday to play. I had met an acquaintance there around 2011 who was running a game dev summer camp and seemed to know a thing or two about developing games. It was around this time I had gotten ideas in my head to do something interesting with my characters, like a fighting game. I had a very close relationship with Yilks by this time, and he also seemed interested in doing something like that with his characters. So we had the idea to combine our characters into an IP and ran with the idea we had of giant women fighting because we thought our characters had enough personality in this regard to be able to carry such a game. So like this is like they were like, well, this isn't just our fetish. These characters are so cool. People like it regardless. So that was kind of what they were going off of for the pitch of this. Yeah.
Not going to say no.
Yeah. And when he says Yilks, that's the person who did the art and character design for this game. It's the giantess anime artist that he's friends with. And I did a search from this little DeviantArt page. Yeah.
Those are, I mean, it is fetish art, but like
very technically well done. Yeah, like
very technically well done. I do have to say, it is really funny to see when anime designs go for like extremely beautiful, shaded, realistic art, because like every single time that this is done, where like they have like these rippling abs, where every single ab has like shine and shadow, depth and breadth across the whole torso, and then the face is big eye anime girl. It's like
just a gradient.
This, in a nutshell, is why I think that like anime for realism is an aesthetic blinder. It is like it is an artistic dead end, where no matter what, if you have to conclude with an exaggerated anime girl face, it is going to look so fucking stupid. It's, you know, even when like on the image on the right side, where like it is super beautiful glossy hair, this incredible pose of the body, the rippling arms. It's like an anime girl leaning down. Imagine she's like lapping up the water out of a lake or something like that.
Like a cat drinking from a bowl.
Yeah, but she is the size of New Hampshire. And you know, the more I say it, this is probably not the episode my mom's going to listen to, but super glorious, beautiful hair, but it is still cropped into these like specific anime tufts that doesn't really make sense.
Very PlayStation 2 hair. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't really, you can imagine it swaying. You can't imagine it moving like hair. Because it does still look like a Lego piece that's been stuck to the head. And also the eyes, because you can't add that kind of hyper-realistic detail when your eyes are so bizarre and exaggerated. The eyes and mouth are like, you have this beautiful drawing and then you just do a little smiley face on top of it, you know? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's like the opposite of like the vor people that do super detailed mouths and then everything else is just kind of whatever. Like those people could do the fusion dance and just make one really talented artist.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And I guess, well, on that note, I have a little section of my notes. Just we've already kind of covered a lot of it, but so we can camp out on like the giantess stuff here if we want. Like, yeah, one of the reasons I kind of know about it is a pretty common, like in terms of fetishes, it's a pretty common one. Like that's why like on the internet, like now I feel like people make jokes about guys wanting to be stepped on a lot. Now that foot fetishes are pretty well known. It's like now giantess stuff is kind of like the new weird but relatively common, well known thing that we like make jokes about. So
yeah, it's you know. I watched. I just wonder about, are there going to be innovations in fetish? You know what I mean? Where are we gonna go from here?
This was on Fur Affinity. I was playing up, like, if you go on Fur Affinity, there's like a list of like specialty categories you can search art for. And I was just showing like macro micro is one of the main ones. This is like one of the common things here. It's like I've just been ambiently exposed to this. Like in the Gene Catlow episode I mentioned, one of like the guy who invented fursonas was a macrophile, Ken Cougar. He did a lot of like giant cat women art. So like, yeah, it's always just something I've been ambiently aware of as being part of the community.
Like a tall gal rocks. Love a tall gal. Big broad shouldered lady, rock my world. Love it. Little tiny lady, great too. Definitely don't want like an 11-foot tall woman who's like gonna throw me around like a bag of beans, because what am I gonna do to please her? You know what I mean? She's 11 foot tall. Yeah, you know, you're showing me a list of specialty fetishes on a Fur Affinity website, and I do have to say, this is like somebody giving me a $100 gift certificate to a wakeboarding store. There's not a single fucking thing here I like.
Yeah,
there's not a single
I was just doing
fucking
that
thing
to illustrate how common it was. Yeah,
let's go through it. And like, look, we can safely say that I don't judge anyone who's into. Well, no, actually, I'm going to say I judge some people that are into this shit. Bondage, fine. Like to be bound around? Hey, who doesn't like that? Who doesn't like a little cuff play, little breath play? That's perfectly fine. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this. The rest of it, though, Digimon, not even Pokemon. Get out of here. I'm not going to, if I'm going to fuck an animal, I'm going to fuck a goddamn American animal.
Yeah, just you have a Jinko gene fetish at that point if you're into Digimon. Just get just all new metal fashion.
Right. Fat furs, if an animal is fat, all I can think of is that they have a bad owner and they didn't get enough outside time. Like if your dog is like a real fat chunker of a dog, you probably didn't like exercise that dog enough and you're overfeeding it. That's just animal abuse. Fetish other, so dark that I don't even want to look into it, right? Because if it's too weird to make it to this list, not a fan. Fursuit, okay, that still is humans fucking. That's Fine. Gore macabre? No, absolutely not. Get that shit out of here.
Yeah.
I don't want to fuck a girl if she had a nosebleed that morning. Hyper? What are we doing? Tell me what hyper is.
Hyper is like the oversized genitals and boobs thing. Like, you've done bits about that before, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done bits about it before. Look, man, every part of a gal is something that is worth loving and praising and worshiping, but there's certain things where it's like, what do I even do with all of this? We all love a big old butt, but there's definitely a point where it's like, okay, this butt is too big. I can't get any of my parts into you because of the volumity of your ass. This isn't going to work. Hypnosis? That's right. Inflation.
Really enjoying the Biden presidency, am I right? Ayo.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't have no, I'm not going to have somebody put a little bike pump into me. Though, for a while there, if you watch one of my comedy clips, the next thing that was suggested after it was this nameless YouTube account of this boy in basketball shorts who would hook a bike pump up to his ass so that he could, like, fart these really incredible, like, minute-long brap farts.
Oh, boy.
And that was just the thing suggested after me. Anyways, go ahead.
No, that reminds me of being on Blue Sky and being like, okay, I need to figure out which of my friends is responsible for this particular thing getting recommended to me. Follows. Yeah.
Because then we have, on the rest of the list, we have macro, micro. We've already said enough about that. Muscle, love a fit chick. That's great. Go for it. My Little Pony, brony, no thanks. Still don't want to fuck a dog. Paw, I don't see how paw doesn't fit in. How is paw?
It's like the furry version of a foot fetish. It's like you're just really into the paws, or also like people wearing like socks with paws in them and stuff too. It's been kind of weird to see that become sort of like a fashion thing now.
Oh yeah, that is true. That is a thing. Yeah, foot fetish, but it's for paws. Do they have flipper and fins?
They must. I haven't really
Pseudopodia. If you're an amoeba.
I wonder if aeromorphs have something like that for wheels. Like, with, aeromorphs are like people like anthropomorphic vehicles. So imagine like like the Lightning McQueen being like, oh, those treads, baby.
Oh man. Oh god. Yeah, I mean, fuck it, whatever. I was gonna go off on a tangent on our tires, the gloves of a car, because the wheel well itself is the hand.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. This is exhausting.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I guess just one other thing I do want to mention is there's this kind of recurring thing that happens with macro furries where whenever somebody tries to kickstart a piece of kaiju media, like a fighting game or a comic or something, the same handful of macro furries will pay to have their persona in the game, or their fans will vote them into it. So if you ever see a fighting game and there's a giant, like a fat blue T-Rex or like a buff green kangaroo, that's why they're in there. Those are these two macro furries who put their personas in a bunch of stuff.
Oh man, the ultimate handshake meme is the Catholic Church and furries across the world pouring thousands of dollars into art of shit that they made up. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's very...
Oh, you're scrolling too fast, dude. I'm seeing some wild shit up here.
Okay, sure, yeah. If you want to go any further,
we got to get into this.
Yeah. So, one of the things we were talking about earlier about those pictures were like her smashing stuff. Interesting is that there is kind of we were talking about the narcissism of small differences earlier. Among the macro thing, there's sort of this split where it's some people like their giants friendly, and some people want their giants mean. Some people I want a giant that's going to smash stuff up and kill me, and some people no, I want a friendly giant that'll pat me on the head and let me ride around on his shoulders. And there's this whole sort of
BFG.
Some people want a BFG, right? I don't want a BF, I want a BFG.
Right.
I like that. Yeah. When you were mentioning inflation, it made me think of that too. The balloon people are like that too, or some of them it's no, you gotta pop them. That's what makes it fun. It's no, you don't pop them. That's horrible. And it's pro popping and anti popping inflation people are always just butting heads against very softly.
Who's the user who just said they responded to someone calling them out for being a pedophile and they just said I don't want to talk about that right now. And then in like action quotes just said, inflates you big and round or
Diesel
something
Raccoon,
like that.
oh my God, that guy. He's
You knew it!
He's such a laughing stock. Everyone just replies to him with inflates you big and round whenever he says something shitty on the internet.
Inflates you big and round. Oh my God. Oh God, we gotta get my aunt on this show to talk about like the psychosexual implications of like all of this stuff, because it's so fucking fascinating to me.
Totally,
that like there's, for the vast majority of the human race, I want to say that they're into like 99% normal stuff, and then there's like always one thing that's a little bit off. Like, you know, normal stuff is just like tits, ass, dicks, penetration. You know, like, not to say that women are like into seeing dicks, but like a conventionally handsome person, they like having sex with a dick. They don't like having sex with like, you know, an anthropomorphic zucchini. But then there's, I would say that like a lot of people have like one little weird thing that gets them off. And, you know, like I know some guys that are like just stock basic white guys that are like, I like hot chicks. Also, I want, you know, Ronda Rousey to like choke me into unconsciousness and fuck my body. You know, like there's like this little bit that is a little bit aberrant. And then from there we have the subculture of bizarre, like candy gore, you know, I want to inflate someone like a balloon and pop them. What the fuck do you mean by that? That doesn't happen. Ever.
Exactly. That's one of the things about these is like so much is like stuff that does not exist and isn't physically possible. So it's entirely like this creative space. So that's why things can get really specific and weird, because it's just like totally unmoored from anything that actually exists.
And like, I get that, but the thing is that like, this is a terrible clip to quote out of me, but like, there are dogs and children and there are couches, and all of those exist and are fucked by people. And so if you have some bizarre thing in your head where like, I want to fuck the socially unacceptable thing, those things do exist. I'm obviously not saying it's good, but I'm saying that like, I get that in an animated world, you can do anything. That's true. I've seen Super Jail, but my thing is like, how does it go from like, oh, but like this specifically is like a sexual thing for me. I like seeing people get stung by a bee and they swell up and they float away like Wario in Wario World 4, Wario Land 4. Do you remember? Did you play that one?
Yeah, Wario has been getting a lot of appreciation lately with all the games that are sort of not imitating it, but like inspired by it, like Pizza Tower and stuff. Yeah, great game.
This is Wario Land. This is where you're trying to get into the pyramid to steal the gold.
Oh yeah, sorry, steal the gold. Yeah, where you're invincible, but like stuff can like affect you.
Yeah, it's so. That was a awesome Game Boy Advance game. Anyways, yeah, there's just a thing where like you can get stung by a bee and you float, and then you have to find something that will unfloat you, and it like. To me, I was just like, oh, that's funny. It's the cartoon. You get stung by a bee. And there were some people somewhere who was like, oh my God, Italians stung by bees floating. Yes! my Google alert for floating swollen Italians finally paid off.
Yeah, God, those Twitter accounts, I mean, those YouTube accounts are always so fun to run into in the wild. Just like the YouTube accounts, like nothing like people getting stung by bees, nothing but people being eaten. It's just like, you know, when you're looking for like a random clip from something, it's just like, oh, it's one of these guys.
Yeah, man. That's why I've said it a trillion times in this podcast. It's why I just like hot people, you know?
Yeah, I'm pretty
just
regular of that.
You know?
Yeah.
All kinds.
I guess I gotta tie it in with you. Like, it did make me think like this giant stuff is almost like a weird inversion of like Lovecraftian horror, or like the idea of something being like so unknowably large is scary. It's just sort of like the big gut. So it's like, no, that's not scary. That's hot. You know, like that's kind of like how I can kind of understand this. I think like as someone who thinks like Lovecraftian stuff is scary, like, you know, or like oceans and things like
that. Which
I
would argue is the goal of Lovecraft.
Huh.
But yeah, we'll put a pin in this, but we should do a bonus episode where I talk about, I just finished reading The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, which is the book that one of the books that inspired Rust Cole from True Detective.
Huh.
But yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, totally. I'd be happy to hear like a Winslow's book report episode or something, or just talk about some media or whatever. Yeah. a weird thing that doesn't get caught is like game developers make fetish art just like every other type of artist. It's just like it doesn't really break containment. Like there are whole specialized communities where people make these little like Unity games about things like this. So like the fact that Gigamaidens exists isn't really that unusual. It's more the fact that it was something that like was being pushed in like general spaces and trying to like, we will see, I have a quote here. He tried to get like the Canadian Media Fund to sponsor this at one point. So this was like an actual, like a real public commercial project that he tried to get off the ground. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think something akin to the Canadian Media Fund was used to fund The Long Dark. So it's not impossible to get it to fund a video game, but I would argue that giant sexy ladies fighting in a city is less attractive to a Canadian arts fund than a very moving story about surviving in the Canadian wilderness.
Yeah, I'm imagining some like old woman like bureaucrat opening up the mail and being like, "My word!" when she sees these pictures of like these giant anime women. Yeah.
She's like, "After all these years, I didn't know what to Google. Now I see it." Okay,
cool.
You got a video for me.
Yeah, so we have there was in 2018. This is his prototype engine test for 2018. This is the last. This is like the real footage we got.
All right, so we have the screenshot from before, these big-ass ladies fighting in an empty city.
And we don't have to watch the whole thing. It's just kind of to get a view of, like, what it's like.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like a 3D fighting game. Okay. I mean, I wouldn't be able to get to what he's got here. That's a terrible jumping animation. Yeah, okay. You know, it looks very basic. What was this made in? Unity?
Yeah, I believe so. This is 2018, yeah, in the Unity.
Yeah. Amazing that this has like under 2,500 views. No attacks yet. He's just kind of like showing people running around. I just think it's so funny when they're holding those giant items and they move them around like they're holding an empty coffee cup. Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's like she's just like swinging around like a sign on the side of the road. Like that's like a pizza.
Right. Yeah. There's kind of a weightlessness to it. Yeah, so that was like an extremely basic test for them. Like that was just showing that they've put characters into a world, which takes a lot of work. I'm not going to knock it for sure, but that's like a very, very, very far seat away from actually having a full game. Because you got to think that like having all of the art done, all of the voice lines done, all of the effects done, every city for every environment, all of the attacks, unique attacks for every single character, and you can have all of that done and you're still so far away from finished because you still need to balance every single thing out so you don't have not just one character being dominant, but one style being dominant. So, you know, because like you can have like a very balanced game, but, you know, like in Hearthstone in the early days when the people were started playing Zoo Warlock, where you could just like fill the board with tiny little weak creatures and then just always have something to trade and attack with. And it was like really cheap and really easy and became crazy dominant. And then, you know, of course it's been like a decade since then, but this is a very, very, very early proof of concept that he is creating a game at all, I would say.
Yeah, and that's basically about as far as the videos got. In 2020, he got rejected by Epic Mega Grants and the Canadian Media Fund. Then in 2022, the artist he was commissioning for the player model stopped talking to him, so he was learning to render the characters himself. So that's one of the reasons why the character models look pretty good, is he actually hired someone to make them. So like this is the one from the demo earlier. And so then this is him trying to make his Kasha rendered. So.
Oh, man. Holy shit. Oh, God, I wish we could have caught that on video. Because if you scroll up, the character model that he had designed is like this. I mean, take the body of like an unusually ripped man and then give it big old tits and, you know, enough of an ass, and then an anime girl head wearing like a Sailor Moon super shiny costume with the fucking action boots and stuff like that. What's funny about those boots, you see them all the time, is that in order to break the line to show that the boots are like a separate thing and it's easier to animate when you have the boots that are like wider at the top, is that makes it so it's like those are actually really uncomfortable to run or do anything in. Because I've got some insane combat boots that I tried to like do some B&Es and they're not good when they're so loose like that. You want something that grabs you all the way up the ankle and the calf. Anyways.
Yeah, there's no laces. It's like going fighting in your waders.
Yeah, exactly. Like you need something that ties that shit to you. But yeah, like this, the hair is still very rudimentary, but like the shine effects of the metal and of like the, spandex tube top thing that she's got on and all of the different things, like it's very shiny and pretty, and it wouldn't look out of place in like a PlayStation 4 game. Like it's very shiny and well put together, right? And then you scroll down and you see his character, which is, it's done in, I want to say this is Blender, and it is a T-pose of a gray blob. Like, I'd imagine this thing made out of featureless gray clay. It is a cat girl with enormous cat ears, an enormous headband, big eyes, an open mouth, a big blob like a potato for hair, wearing a one-piece dress, and feet the size of a fucking washing machine. Just enormous feet and hands, enormous fingers, and it's just like, we had this exaggerated and stylized human design earlier, and now what we're looking at is like, take a 6th grader's drawing and tell a police forensics team to like create a real model of it, and so we end up with just this like nightmare blob. This is very fucking funny to me.
Yeah, I'm glad you thought that was as funny as I did.
Yeah, this is so goddamn funny.
It's yeah. And so obviously, as you can imagine, posting about this on Something Awful did not make him many friends. Like, when he made a thread there to promote the game, he did like an FAQ, and one of the questions was like, wait, you're making a fighting game about giant anime women? Answer, yes. Question, seriously? Answer, I think it's a fun idea. Question, ugh, I bet this game is going to be full of sick shit like dick girls, ponies, vor, furries, etc. Answer, despite the fact that this game is largely for my own titillation, I am simply not making a heinous deviant art porn game. The game is primarily cute and humorous in nature, and although there might be suggestive themes, there will not be anything outright pornographic. There are things like cat girls and dragon girls in the game, but I don't consider them furry, and neither should you.
Okay. Again, we just play back all of the tangents that we did earlier. It's bizarre to me that people are like, my fetish is so bizarre that it doesn't exist in any mainstream concept, and I need to create a whole game where enormous women can fight in the ruins of a city, and they are crazy muscular. All of that is totally normal, even though it doesn't exist in the mainstream. However, a trans person who I know many trans people, that is aberrant and wrong and disgusting. And also, like, we already talked about the pony world. There's so many of them. There's so goddamn many of them. Like, you can't be like, no, you guys are on the out group. Like, what was the thing about, there was somebody on Twitter who was like, stop normalizing sex. And they were just like, what are you talking about? Everybody has sex except for incels. And they were just like, bandwagon fallacy, which is so fucking funny to me. Like, sex is disgusting. I can't believe that anybody has it. It's like, no, you are on the outside. Please understand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
like, if you're funny. You're ace, but like, please understand that like, there's a reason why people have sex. It's to create ace people, like it's, and we have one more question here. I have a very tiny penis. So the very concept of this game is an assault to my male pride. Please tell me that there will be male characters so that I might assert my dismal manhood over these huge anime girls. Answer, there will not be any playable male characters in the game. One thing I know about game development is that you really want to focus on what people won't be getting out of their game. That's like first and foremost, like, you got to tell people what you are restricting from your game.
Yeah, there's only people who want the thing you're not doing.
Yeah, exactly.
You want male characters? Kind of gay, bro, basically. Like,
yeah, it makes me think that I'm gonna, when I have like a Q&A for my game, I'm gonna have the last question be like, hang on, is this game woke? And I'm gonna say, this game is so woke that if you're hot and you play it, it'll make you ugly. Like, it's the wokest game in the world.
Hell yeah, I can't wait to play. basically, in 2015, since he posted about this for a couple years, and it was kind of a running joke on the forums. Eventually, in 2015, one of the moderators made a parody thread about the game, and this is when people kind of gathered to sort of share their cabbage pot stories. And I have a poster here, Callie Park, who posted about this on. They said, "Fun fact: Cabbage Pots, aka Psycho Josh, was banned from the SA Game Dev IRC for posting giantess and tentacle hentai after being repeatedly asked to stop." So he was going to like the place where like the people working on like Shower with Your Dad Simulator and like RPG Maker games and stuff, and being like, and just posting his stuff there.
Look, man, there's a reason why all of my art is like very desexualized. Like there's sexual themes in it, but it's not about sex as the act. It is just about like the phenomena of sex in a culture. And I just like, I can't ever trust someone to like, if there's a director who has a tits fetish and he casts actresses who have huge tits, I just can't trust him to just be like, okay, you're a full and complete human being, and I'm going to move the camera around you as if you are a human being, and not be like, yeah, but we got to get the cans in there, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that he's making this totally not pornographic game, this has nothing to do with pornographic. It's only, I created it to titillate me. Allow me to Google what that means. I know what it means. He doesn't. Then you look at, well, what else is he posting? Oh, he's posting pornography of giant women, which has totally, absolutely nothing to do with the game that he's making. Very funny to me.
And they say then they let him back a month later, and he got banned again for posting Gravity Falls porn in the channel, which Gravity Falls is a Disney Channel show.
Boy.
So yeah, three of these 5 characters are underage. One, I'm pretty sure Seuss is developmentally disabled, and Grunkle Stan is just like, nobody wants to funk Grunkle Stan. I'm sorry.
Oh boy. Yeah. When you said Gravity Falls, I was thinking, I thought Life is Strange, which is the name of a game. I also do think Life is Strange, but which is also another thing that I
Life is Strange. Good game, yeah.
I have not played it, but I understand that it reminds, I know nothing about it. Be mad at me if you want. It reminds me of Dear Esther a little bit. What is it? Gone Home? You played Gone Home.
Yeah, I definitely get what you mean there. It does have that sort of teenage, like youthful sort of people trying to hit that vibe feel to it, yeah.
Gone Home was a very beautiful game. I think it was it made with the Source engine?
I think it was Unity, yeah.
Yeah. Very, very, put very, very short. It's very atmospheric. You are a teen girl, I believe, coming home late at night to your childhood home. Your parents are gone, and you are just like exploring this fully decorated, fully lived in house, and you're finding bits and notes and pieces of your childhood. And it has kind of this dark, ominous feeling to it because nobody's home and it's like really dark outside. And you're expecting that they're dead or that she killed herself or something like that. But towards the end, it kind of takes a warmer tone because what it is it's girl realizing her sexuality and running away with her girlfriend. And it's very well done and it's a very moving story. At least I felt that way when it came out. And of course it did fairly well. If it came out today, people would be calling for the director to be hanged. So, you know.
Oh yeah, people were pretty mean about it when it came out. It's pretty fun now to see like the people who said that Gone Home wasn't a game now being like super into mouthwashing when that's also like a walking sim basically, but it's like different aesthetics.
So. I saw you say that.
I've never played it, but some people have told me they said it's like a game where you walk around and do story stuff. It's like it's not really like interactive in like a gamey sense.
Yeah. I would say that like granted, I have not yet played mouthwashing. It looks tremendous and I am very, very happy that like a horror game and a game that talks about very serious topics is doing well. We can talk another time about, I watched Geller's video on Spec Ops The Line, which is another thing that we'll have to get into sometime. But mouthwashing, I would argue that it is more of a game experience than Gone Home, because if you've played enough Unity games or you've played enough games in that particular engine, it's very limited. You are in one building, you're going around, and it's just like, it seems like a very rudimentary Flash game, whereas Mouthwashing has different timelines and different buildings, and there's like chapters to it. There's more that you're doing. There's not a interactive win-lose scenario game aspect to it, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And so it would come away with like a different kind of feeling.
Oh yeah,
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, I was just being snarky. Yeah, but I know what you mean. They are very
I know
different
you were.
types of games.
I didn't clap back at you on that because I need to.
I got you. Yeah, but no,
I'll chastise you on the pod. That's what I'll do. No. Yeah. No, but yeah. Anyways, so Gravity Falls. He was making porn of children. So, anyways, cartoon children.
This moderator, Facts Are Useless, who is great. Like Facts Are, like you can tell Facts Are Useless was a good moderator, except the one person they stopped down, everyone was like, darn, you were a good moderator. We'll be sad to see you go. Like he doesn't really Yeah, like the only people who don't like him are people he banned, like Cabbage Pot. So here's his ban that he put. He said, I kept asking myself, why haven't the mods banned Cabbage Pots yet? All he does is make really bad posts about video games and anime girls in the Smash Brothers thread. He spent like 8 posts calling Shantae a whore. He's a creepy fetish pervert man who constantly talks up the creepy fetish pervert game he is developing independently. Why do the mods let someone like this be part of our community? And then I realized, I'm the mods now. Requested by Facts Are Useless, approved by Lotax. So Lotax approved.
Lotax brought him back.
No, he approved the ban.
Oh, he approved the ban. Okay.
Yeah, the first one is the person who submitted the request, and then admin had to approve it. So Facts Are Useless asked to have them banned, and Lotax approved it.
Well, I just want to say that, like, I know a lot of people who are very, very sexual people, who have their whole life is very informed by closeness and intimacy and sexual pleasure, and of course all the other pleasures and intellectual stimulation and all the other things that a human life can contain. They're just really into sex, whether it's with their partner or with multiple partners or group sex or things like that. There's ways that you can do all of that without having it be like this creepy, obsessive, like grimy thing. And I just don't think that enough people make the distinction between, like, there's more of them than you realize, because they probably don't talk to you about this, especially if you are like outwardly hostile towards this kind of thing. But like, I know people who are like, yeah, I was at like a big gangbang and we all fucked, we all had fun, everybody had a great time. We took turns in the shower and we all got cleaned up, and then we watched Hot Fuzz after that. We watched a movie together and we ate a big dinner and we all had a good time. And they do that, and it's like a self-contained community. They have fun, they take care of each other, and that's just their life. And it's like, you can be some sort of like tradcath reactionary and be like, these people having fun in a way that does not harm them is actually bad for them because, it harms this invisible thing that we made up. But there's just a reality where people are able to have a lot of interesting sex with partners or multiple partners, and all of that is perfectly healthy and okay. And then on the other hand, you have people who are like, there's a certain degree of like lack of empathy, lack of shame, or not shame, but like lack of tact and like poor socialization that creates people who are like, harassing people with pornography, and like it's possible to be somebody who, like, I know multiple people who are like into group sex and big sex parties, and that's not even the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth thing that I would say about who they are, because they're into so many other things that are like way more impactful in their life. They're just also into that. But if your fetish is the first thing that people know about you, you're probably doing something pretty fucking weird.
Yeah, it just shouldn't be the entirety of your being, regardless. Like, even if you're like, even like, I know people like where that's like they make like as their living as like being a content creator in their spaces. Even then, like they have like complete, full, interesting lives. It's not just all they do. It's like the people who know. It's like, you don't even make this stuff. How do you spend this much time like fixated on this? Like, like I know OnlyFans girls who are like who make content like crazy, but they're also just like, I don't really think about sex at all. I just happen to have a body that our world considers aesthetically pleasing. And so like, it's a way to make money, so I do it. And like, that's just a totally valid thing. But, there's a lot to say. Definitely, yeah.
Nobody's bigger than a giant. I'm humongous, wouldn't you agree? I'm large, I'm huge, spacious and colossal. I could pick up a dump truck and park
I guess to sort of wrap up on the Gigamaidens part of it. So around 2015 with that parody thread, like sort of like Zyborn Clock, people got so into dunking on this that poster Tom R actually made a functional parody Gigamaidens game. And it's very funny because they intentionally made it like look as unsexy as possible. So they use like all poser art and like super flat, like font. It's very funny.
Yeah, like if you were to just describe to someone like, I want a game that's a fighting game, but the people are huge. And Gigamaidens, technically, is a fighting game where the fighters are huge. They're also exclusively women. That is an aspect of it. But what we're talking about here is just like, these are very default character. I want to say that this is like the art that comes when you download, what is it, Renpy, R-E-N-P-Y, whatever that play novel software is. And so they're just like extremely rudimentary 3D designs. Like one guy's just wearing overalls. None of them have shoes on. They're just wearing jeans and t-shirt, jeans and t-shirt, jeans and t-shirt. Very basic everything. But they are like expressionless, totally risless, but fighting in a fully conceived 3D world. They're also huge. It's just very funny because it is desexualized. These are JC Penney ads of unsex, you know?
Oh, that's so perfect. Yeah. And apparently, like, this wasn't even on Something Awful. When I was researching this, apparently on 8chan, someone made a parody called Micromaidens, where it's a fighting game where you play as a giant woman fighting a tiny woman, and it's, like, horribly unbalanced on purpose as a joke. Like, I thought that was pretty funny. Right. Like, people just, like, we're going to make, like, being so into dunking on this guy, they make, like, full games making fun of it. I mean,
well, this is less like Zyborn Clock and more like the basketball one.
Barkley, yeah.
Yeah, Barkley, where they're like, fuck it, I'll make the game. And they just did this whole thing.
To sort of do like a gallant to Cabbage Potts' Goofus, you know, as much as he hates furries, we did kind of show him up because in 2023, there's a game called Property Damage that's like a commercial release. You can buy this on Steam. It's pretty well reviewed.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's a complete commercial giant/giantess/ non-binary giant. I actually read that one of the characters is non-binary, which is cool. And you can play it right now. And it's actually like a pretty fun game. It's like a score attack game where you just get bigger by destroying stuff. And it was like, that's what part of the fight part. This dude's like, oh, someone did this, and it's actually like a pretty fun game because it's not just about the finish. It's like what makes a fun game.
I mean, like we've talked about it in the past, but like the Saints Row the Third is such a fun game for its like the combat part of it is stupid as shit, but the fact that it is just like this big turbo stupid sandbox of like running around and hitting people with dildos, and like Saints Row the Third, it's the Grand Theft Auto that we have at home. It's like it's a infinitely worse version of Grand Theft Auto. And when they released the third one, they were like, this is the last game we're going to make. This is our final cash in. And so they were like, we're going to take this storyline, wrap everything up. You start the game as the president, and then you completely run the entire country. And then by the end, you have like, you're fighting the Matrix and you have superpowers and you're jumping across buildings, and there's nothing else that they could possibly give you. It's like when they shut down the Matrix Online and they gave everybody all of the powers just to be like, all right, fuck it, have fun. But one of the mini games in that is it was a tax fraud, or not tax fraud. It was a insurance fraud game where in like 60 seconds, your character, if you click the mouse, you'll do a pratfall, and you just have to walk in front of traffic and do a pratfall at the right time to get hit by a truck and get the most damage done to your body so that you can sue them or like get their insurance money. And it was really fun because like you can get hit by like 6 trucks at a time and suddenly you're flying across the map.
Yeah, you can steer into them and it's great.
Yeah, it was just very silly. And so I like it when games are just like, people like big numbers and people like smashing things. Also, foxes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Go nuts. Property damage? Yeah. Great. No harm. I love it. Big fan.
Yeah. Also, you can import custom characters, so it could be a human giant game too. Like if you wanted, you could probably take those models from Gigamaidens and import them in there if you wanted. So
that's so funny. Yeah. There's Scout from Team Fortress 2 smashing on stuff.
Yeah.
It makes me think of how you can put James Sunderland in Gmod and give him like a fucking AR2. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I thought I'd end up. Just maybe on a nice note, since the Gigamaidens is still in development.
That's fun. Yeah, this has been a treat, man. Do you have what's going on your end of things? Anything you want to wrap up on?
Nothing really here other than just like the show stuff. I might actually have been thinking I might try and do like maybe like a fun. I might do like a little like holiday recording where I read like a little short story or something. I was thinking I might do and like just to put out there for people, but you know.
Yeah. I'm sure we could cook up some stories, goon Christmas things and things like that. We could talk about the gifts that we get or give, any kind of silly stuff like that. And well, you can find us at IFTIPod at gmail.com or IFTIPod on Twitter. Please, if you have any stories of the young internet that you have any experience with, please add it to our document. We would love to hear from you. We have an enormous amount of suggestions already. Thank you all so very much for that. Please check us out there. Also, if you want to find Jay, you're at jaybrandstetter everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. And as always, there's winslowdomain.com for everything that I make, and winslowdomain on Twitter and calculations on Instagram. Check out my stories. I'm posting some of the art for the card game. It's all coming together. I will be sharing a lot of that as it gets developed. And again, pre-orders are not going to be up for forever because I want to make sure I make some money off of this. Yeah, if you pre-order now, it costs $5, and then you get the game for $10 off, which would be for $40 when it comes out on Kickstarter. And join the Discord. Tell me what you think. I'm posting a lot of the art there and asking for help. So thank you all for listening. Also, we have a Patreon. Donate, give $1 to the Patreon, and it will go to Jay and Steve. And you'll also get access to tons of other stuff that we've talked about over the years. And it's a lot of fun. Shitload of content for just $1. Put us on in the background while you do the dishes. And thank you all so much. Thank you for listening, and check out the Patreon.
Yeah, take care.
I'm From the Internet is created by Jay Brandstetter and Winslow Domain. Edited by Steve Brown. Music by Steve Is Broke. Kevin Smith can eat my entire ass.
Yeah, I'm glad. He was a little before my time, so like he was always kind of like the thing like Gen X nerds were into that I didn't really connect with.